Hello and welcome to another episode of Minecraft Disney World. This week we're going to be taking a look at an oldie but a goodie. It's in the Magic Kingdom in Adventureland, and it is of course the Jungle Cruise. Now the Jungle Cruise opened up on October 1st, opening day of the Magic Kingdom in 1971, and it is not the original Jungle Cruise. There was actually a Jungle Cruise in Disneyland which opened beforehand, and there's also a Jungle Cruise in Hong Kong Disneyland and in Tokyo Disneyland. The only Disney actually that doesn't have a Jungle Cruise is Paris, Disneyland Paris. But sure enough, this has been here for decades now, and it's sort of evolved over the time. So let's do a quick run through of the ride and see what it's like. So if you're unfamiliar with the Jungle Cruise, it is pretty literally a jungle cruise. You get onto a boat with a skipper and a bunch of other passengers, and you take a cruise through this artificial jungle where you see a bunch of different animals and bugs and snakes of that nature. It's known for having fake animals. They actually use audio animatronics, which is how it's been since it opened, which has sort of changed the way that the ride has evolved. Because now, especially in Disney World, you have the Animal Kingdom, and the Animal Kingdom isn't a zoo per se, but it does have live animals that you can see. So that sort of really takes any excitement out of the Jungle Cruise, because you can just find those animals, at the next theme park over. So it's very interesting how Disney approached it. Rather than closing the ride or replacing the fake animals with real animals, they sort of embraced the tackiness of having animatronic animals on this fake cruise. And now all the skippers have this really pun-heavy, cheesy comedy routine that they sort of go through when you go on the ride. And so now the ride's sort of gone from being this exciting look at jungle animals back when, this was the closest you can get, to being just this fun ride for sort of the humor of the skippers. And they really do, I think, today make up most of the ride experience. Now, this ride was actually inspired by a couple of different things. There were a series of true life adventure films about lions in the 1950s, and there were films like The African Queen that really inspired Walt Disney to have some sort of jungle trek adventure ride. And that sort of really bleeds into the ride. So much so that the Imagineer Harper Goff actually referenced the boat from The African Queen into the vehicles in the Jungle Cruise. So it's a really close connection there. And there's also sort of an urban legend that the Jungle Cruise was sort of what gave Disney this idea of plussing rides. And plussing rides, if you don't know, is essentially his concept of never finishing a ride. That you may have built a ride and it's great, but in a couple of years you add things here, you add things there, you're always improving it. And that's something that he just sort of had this idea for the park in general, which is why he did a theme park as opposed to just continuing to do only movies and animations. He wanted something that would never be finished, and this ride supposedly highlighted that idea. And the story goes that he overheard this mother visiting Disneyland, and she told her child that since they had been on the ride last time they visited, they didn't need to ride it again. And this sort of snapped him into he was afraid that people wouldn't want to go on rides again because they already know that experience. And so he put his Imagineers to work on making these upgrades for the rides. I don't know if it's true or not, but considering how many decisions or how many ideas came about his experience in the park, I wouldn't be surprised if it was entirely true. Another aspect of this ride that I think is really fantastic, and it's the sort of thing that you really can't see through Minecraft, is that the queue is so much of the experience, because they're running this queue track of music with I guess he's a DJ, he's the radio announcer for the radio station that's running through the queue, and there's even small comedic plot lines running through that.
Any travelers who may need to exchange foreign currency during their voyage needn't worry. There are banks all along our rivers.
I'd like searchlights in the night.
So even the queue in this ride is sort of a funny experience that you can't get in a recreation here, understandably. but makes it a ride worth going on, even though, in today's world, it's so easy to see these exotic animals anywhere else. Fun fact, near the hippo pool on this ride, you can actually see there's an airplane that's crashed, and it's sort of part of the plot line. And you'll notice it's only the back end of an airplane, and the reason that is because the front end of the airplane is nowhere on that ride. The front end of the airplane actually is in Hollywood Studios. It's in the great movie ride. There's a scene with Casablanca, an old movie, and it takes place at an airport, and there's the front of an airplane in the scene. And so what Disney did was they bought an airplane, cut it in half, and used the front half in one ride and the back half in another ride. And like Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion, this ride is going to join the ranks of rides that have movies based on it. Disney's confirmed that they're actually working on a motion picture based on the Jungle Cruise, and so far the only things that are actually confirmed are that Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, who actually do the voices of Woody and Buzz in Toy Story, are going to be in it. There's no dates at this time of when it'll come out or even what it's going to be like. If the ride, as it currently stands, is any indication, it'll hopefully be a pretty funny movie. So that's just a quick look at the Jungle Cruise. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. I think if you're ever in Disney World, it's definitely worth riding once, just because you'll get a good laugh out of it. It just shows the ingenuity of Disney, that they were put in a situation where just because of the advancement of time and technology, the ride really wasn't relevant anymore, but rather than getting rid of it or just overhauling it completely, all they had to do was reapproach it from a different angle with a different perspective, and it became a fun ride again. And it's definitely one that I visit every time I go for that very reason. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Every week I'm going to take one attraction or one part of the parks, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the history. I hope you all have a fantastic week and a fantastic weekend, and I hope to see you all here next week for the next episode of Minecraft Disney World. Bye, everyone.